I saw you, Ro, laughing at me with that little glimpse. I can't, there's no segue there. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Living, Loving, Learning, our season 2 of Truth, Love, Energy TV. We are an evolving collaborative community talk show that may change over time, but will always focus on topics to start conversations and inspire insights. Season 2 is focused on a full panel discussion on specific topics and concepts from the Michael teachings. Guest panelists are invited based on their relationship to the topic and their representation of the topic being discussed. I'm Troy. My pronouns are he, they. I'm a server cast sage from Cadre 1, Entity 2, and your Truth, Love, Energy host and channel for the Michael entity. For more information on anything or anyone in this video, see the description in the final video post for links. Now let's get started and introduce our lovely panel. First up, we have Bobby.
Hey everybody, I'm Bobby. I'm a server cast artisan. I'm from Cadre 2, Entity 2, and my pronouns are he, him.
Next up, we have Ro.
Hello, friends. My name is Ro. I'm an artisan cast priest from Cadre 2, Entity 7. Those are she, they, them.
And next, we have Connor.
Hello, TLE. I'm Connor. I'm a scholar cast sage from Cadre 1, Entity 2, he, they, pronouns. Welcome.
And today, everybody, we're missing Kate. Kate has some family obligations that did not allow her to be here. So instead, we have special guest Cypress.
Oh, calm down.
Much love.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Cypress. I'm a sage cast sage, Cadre 1, Entity 2, and my pronouns are she, her.
Well, let's jump right in with what's good. This is where everyone shares something good about their life, something they've discovered, something to share that might be inspiring or interesting. And we don't know what that is for everybody individually, but hopefully whatever we share will inspire you to look into it, and maybe it'll bring some good to your life. Because things are not great right now in the world. So, but there's always something good somewhere. And so we're gonna share that. So who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Oh, nice.
Something good just happened yesterday. Ketanji Brown Jackson. The nomination of Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court. Hopefully it goes through, but she will be our first female African-American representation on the Supreme Court. I think it's long overdue, but I'm so excited by the potential for it. So I'm hoping that she has a smooth process between here and joining the court. But I think amidst a lot of other stuff, like you were saying, Troy, that's dark and grim right now happening in the world, that was a bright spot that happened yesterday.
Yeah, and that's what's crazy. We were talking about this yesterday. Is like something so historic like that, and potentially even more historic, is just overshadowed by yet another white man causing trouble in the world. So it's very frustrating, but it's still there. It's still happening and good. Who else would like to share?
I will.
Yeah.
Okay, so mine is less worldly and more me-oriented.
Shocker.
So, on brand for me. So I have started trying to, how you have those little moments where you think of a person and as you're going about the day or whatever. Well, I've tried to really pay attention to that recently. So when someone comes into my mind, I'm just sending them a quick text or a little note on Messenger or something to just say hi. Nothing extravagant. It doesn't have to start a big conversation. I thought about them and I reached out. And a couple of people who I have done that to, even just this past week, were like, oh my God, that was such perfect timing. I really was having a difficult day or an issue or something like that. And so I really feel like it makes me feel good to feel like that I'm connected to people that I care about in a way where I would maybe just be picking up on something and just reaching out. So that was really, it's been really nice for me this week. And also it makes me feel more connected in general and more present in my own body and in my own life when I can do that. Why are you laughing? And the second thing, I have two. The second thing is I saw Troy this morning for the first time in a long time. It made me very happy.
We got to spend a little bit of time together. Yeah, that was nice.
It was very, very, it was the best.
I only laughed because your camera froze for a second. It made me laugh. Yes. Yeah, I really like that. I wish everybody should be doing that more often, especially now, because we don't realize how isolating things are right now for people. And when you just find out somebody's thinking of you just randomly, it's so nice to do that. I do that, and I also receive them randomly, and it always makes my day. So that's a really good one. Who's next?
Well, I started cooking again.
Oh,
right. I suppose I never stopped, but I'm
Like
cooking more
cooking?
frequently now. And I have plans for cast iron cornbread in the near future, and I am very excited for that. So how does that improve the world? It makes me happier, and when I'm happier, the world's happier.
I do not get enough cornbread, and
It's good.
That's one of those things I like that Bobby's not particularly fond of, so it gets pushed down the rung of priorities.
Okay, that's
More
not
for you.
true.
Bobby doesn't like corn.
I know he doesn't like. Look at his
Well,
face. As you said,
I never said I don't
the
like.
wrong continent for you if you don't like
I
corn.
know, right?
I never said I don't like cornbread. And
It's
even
the
if I did
biggest
like
crop.
cornbread, I never prevent you from having it.
No, you
No.
never prevent me from anything because I'm, my own person. I'm in charge.
Ro,
Moving right along.
All right, let me share some good stuff from my life. So this week I cleaned and decluttered my room, which was like a huge win because sometimes I get so like in the astral plane and I forget the physical responsibilities and chores. So that was good for me to do. And yesterday I talked to some friends that I hadn't seen in a long time, so that was a great highlight for my week, and I love them so much. And we were sharing those beautiful moments and memories. And I remember Michael says some things about nostalgia that can be a pathway to healing, and that's beautiful and very necessary. Another thing was that I got back more regularly on my YouTube channel, by the way. That's super fun to me to
Wait,
do.
you got what? It cut out.
Streaming more regularly on my YouTube channel. That you and Troy was there the other day. That was really nice. So thank you for your presence there. Love you.
That was nice I always miss everybody else's events that are going on, and I got a chance to be there, and that was nice.
Mm-hmm.
Made me have a nice day that day. Well, today's topic is, extending on the conversation of creativity, and in the process of exploring something that we'll get back to in a little bit, I found a website. We were trying to find a piece of art that represented our lives. And so I was like, well, what if we punch in keywords to an artificial intelligent art generator and see what comes of it? And I'm not going to share what came of it from my stuff right now, but I'm going to share it for all of us to participate in. If I can remember how to do this, hold on. So here it is. It's called, it's at app.wombo.art. And so what I want to get from the panel is a keyword that for whatever reasons, anything you want, we're going to take a keyword and put it into this prompt and see what piece of art comes from our collective consciousness.
Any keyword.
Any keyword you want. I'm going to say first, I'm going to say hugs. Okay.
Am I
Bobby?
next? Let's do dancing.
Let's see. Okay.
Pulsar.
Pulsar.
Like the star that'll
Star.
kill you if you're in it.
Yeah. Ro, what?
Star.
Star and pulsar? Oh,
Oh yeah.
oh. Cypress?
Go.
Radiation's
Truth.
coming for you.
Truth.
Mm.
All right. Now we're going to do it in the style called mystical, and let's see what comes up. This is what our minds blended together look like. That's what this is. Creating. Oh, it's coming into focus. Oh, what is it? Oh, what is it?
Is that a Leviathan?
Oh, here we are.
Wow, look at that.
Here we are. That's our artificially intelligent generated art based on our panel. Basically, it looks like a tornado of light.
Yeah. Yes.
A hurricane of light.
Dancing
On the
tornado of
ocean.
light.
Wait, what's it called when it's on the ocean? Not a tornado.
A water spout.
No. I can't remember what the word is. There's a different word for it.
A water
Hurricane?
spout.
Cyclone.
Cyclone. Yeah, I think it's well, maybe that's not it. I don't know.
It's a water spout. A
Yeah, I mean,
tornado
water
on
spout
the
is
ocean is
water
a
spout's maybe not the word you're looking for, but he is right.
Maybe not. There we are. That's us. So that's what I wanted to share. Good. Everybody can go to app.wombo.art and play around with it. It's fun. And you can save these. And what I was doing was experimenting, creating like tarot cards out of them and making my own deck.
I was going to say, it looks like a tarot card.
Yeah, and it's really fun. So that's what I was doing. So that's my good thing to share today.
Thank you.
Is that our new logo?
Yes.
A new app to play
It's
with. You know, I
beautiful.
love apps.
I'm going to save it. So who knows where it'll show up in TLE next time. So let me, okay. So we're going to move on to our topic for the day, but we're going to do things a little different today because instead of doing our topic intro and getting some conversation in on it before our guest panelists, I'd like to bring our guest panelists on right away so she's a part of our conversation. And because we're extending the conversation on creativity, why not bring an artisan back? Ooh, genius. So our guest today is CHRISTINA. CHRISTINA is an artist, a creative teacher, a vegan, and an old artisan whom Michael has described as a constant contradiction, sometimes even a paradox, as her fearlessness is not fearless. Her presence is inspiration and sadness. She is never one thing at a time, and while she is wholly herself, she is everyone's reflection. Oh, I like that.
That is so cool.
So welcome to the panel, CHRISTINA.
Hey!
What an intro.
That was a little intimidating hearing it.
That's exciting. Well, yeah, I was sitting there waiting. Yeah,
like also like the whole Michael said that I was all of this, and then you have to be like,
that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
But hi everyone, I'm CHRISTINA, and I'm a scholar cast artisan from Cadre 1 Entity 3, and my pronouns are she/her.
All right. Well, you're here for a good topic. We're going to explore creativity in the context of chaos. Michael describes, we're going to jump right into the topic right now. Michael describes creativity as having a positive pole of beauty and a negative pole of chaos. Beauty is defined as the recognition of patterns, and chaos is defined as the lack of recognition of patterns or the rejection of patterns. The world around us seems to be in chaos with very few discernible patterns that we can see as beautiful. So we thought it would be interesting and helpful to explore the nature of chaos, understand it better, and be able to identify it in ourselves, maybe help shift that chaos towards beauty. We can't control the chaos of the world, but the more we can help to create beauty, the more possibility there is for others to join in. So what we used as a starting point for our topic today is a quote from Michael from somebody's session. It was not elaborated. Michael didn't elaborate in this excerpt, but I did get a little additional information for this particular show, so we can add it to the details on TLE later. But Michael described chaos as having 7 degrees of intensity or effect. So the first degree of chaos is distrust, which is mild chaos caused by a lack of reliability within or with someone or something else. So that first degree is distrust. The second degree is paranoia, chaos that builds on distrust but loses touch with reality. The third degree of chaos is disgust, which is chaos that shifts paranoia into revulsion, offensiveness, and rejection. The fourth degree is frustration, which is chaos that comes from the inability to change or adapt or to create change, I imagine. Fifth degree is desperation, where chaos leads to extremes and destructive actions. And the sixth degree of chaos is panic, loss of control over creativity that is ruled by anxiety, fear, and lack of conscious direction. And the seventh degree is terror, completely consumed by fear, paralysis, and momentum. We describe these as degrees that can exist in any instance where a recognition of patterns has been lost, from experiences of inner turmoil to relationship turbulence to natural disasters. So the first question I had for the panel is, well, first we can discuss these if you want to elaborate more on the degrees, but where do you find yourself most often in terms of these degrees of chaos? Do you recognize one of these as more often, showing up more often for you than others? And same for the viewers who are watching. Do you recognize one of these as a pattern for yourself?
I'll go.
Okay.
First. Well, I definitely thought that 1 and 2 are kind of like more normal to my daily life. In
distrust and paranoia?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Like, because you have to rely on other people, like, at your job or that type of thing. I just generally am starting to mistrust anybody being able to do their job. And I am consciously aware of it. It bothers me. And so I check up on everything all the time and get frustrated when I don't check up and it doesn't work, and then once in a while they surprise me and do it right. So I think that's kind of like what happens a lot to me regularly, especially in my work life. But I will say I do have a tendency to jump to panic, which Bobby's going to bring up any minute now anyway. So when something is difficult for me, the older I get, instead of just sitting down and kind of figuring it out, I just go, okay, help me. I'm panicking. Like, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do, because I didn't know where to go to get the link to click into the little show today, because it's been a while. So I called Troy and then he didn't answer his phone. And then I panicked and called Bobby really quick. And, so I do jump a little bit to 6 for the panic.
Okay.
You are panicky.
I am
panicky. A long jump.
It's true. It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
hi.
That's something that I had asked Troy earlier today too. Like, I didn't know if the degrees represented any form of hierarchy or like a progression from one to or are they more lateral side by side? But for me, I feel like I tend to live the most in the 4th degree of frustration and the 6th degree of panic. When Troy got the channeling about frustration being chaos that comes from the inability to change or adapt, I certainly resonate with a sense of inflexibility or resistance to change sometimes. And then also with panic being a loss of control over creativity that is ruled by anxiety, fear, and lack of conscious direction. Sometimes when I'm exposed to or I'm in a state of chaos or disorganization, I just freeze and I feel like I become immobile. There are a couple things in my life right now where I feel like I'm sort of frozen and I'm not willing or ready yet to try to make some sort of motion out of it. So I definitely you might be panicky, Cypress, but I live right there with you a lot of the time. So, but for me, it's frustration and panic.
I do think that during COVID, I think a lot of people were in that same space because you're frustrated because you can't do anything or go anywhere. You don't know what to do, and you're panicked because you don't want to die.
The pandemic has certainly tested our ability to live amidst chaos.
Oh yeah. Anybody else?
Yes, definitely the fourth degree.
Frustration.
I mean, it's not really a progression, is it? You can live in some and not others.
Well,
do they each build off the one that came before?
They kind of do, but not. I don't know. I would have to bring in Michael for more details, but I think that it's more like a degree of intensity, like the depending on the degree, it's more paralyzing, like less ability to create, in a positive way. It's harder to see beauty the higher the degree. It's harder to recognize beauty the higher the degree, because like if you're distrustful, you can just navigate around that and get through your day. But when you're terrified, and to the extent of being consumed by it, it's hard to see it anywhere. So I think that's where the degrees part comes in.
Interesting.
So frustration for you?
Oh yes, without a doubt. Which I think everyone has been feeling to an extent.
Yeah.
These past couple of years.
All of these are familiar to some extent.
Yeah, for me, I've never had a salary. I've never had benefits of any sort. I'm going to need a new job eventually, but I still have the one I've had for a while, and it feels at times like nothing is moving forward, even when things are, of course. Just feels that way.
Yeah.
So mostly fourth degree with occasional spikes into maybe not so far as terror, but definitely panic, the sixth one.
Ro?
Yeah, in my case, I think...
Our source of love and light. Do you recognize any of these?
Sure. I mean, it's like in different spheres of my life, I think we can have different degrees. For example, comes to mind in family, my close family members, for example. Sometimes I can get very frustrated with them because they sometimes are engaging in behaviors or actions or thoughts that are not very kind to others and the world, and beliefs that can be harmful. So I get frustrated because I can't change them. They have to change. They have to commit that positive change, but they are not doing it. And another, for example, in work, creativity, sometimes a bit of distrust, like lingering there, with myself, the usual self-deprecation creeping in, and that. But I think the more I have learned and remember myself and essence through me, the less I fall into those states, can be chaotic. And actually, chaos can be this energy that will give you a surge of inspiration. Even that's how it works for me, at least. But that's how I try to approach it.
We're going to come back to that too, like how we deal with this, how we deal with these. Christina?
Yeah, I think I recognize all of them. Absolutely. Well, but I'm definitely with Cypress on the difficulty with trust and even paranoia sometimes in daily life. But I also feel what Bobby was saying about the panic. But I also initially thought of these as like a ladder when I thought about it before I came here today. But when you gave the full description or the longer description, I think it all made sense that in each situation that we can respond with each of these degrees.
Yeah.
So I know all of them.
I do think that there's probably something to if it's in the fourth degree, then disgust, paranoia, and distrust are packed in there somewhere.
Oh, great.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yay!
it's not so much a progression, but it's just like those ingredients, they're there somewhere.
Like we graduated from the lower ones to get to
Yeah, because I was thinking of like the needs, then you start somewhere and then you go higher and higher, right?
The needs?
Yeah, in the 9 needs, right?
Oh, you don't start and go there. Those are just
you
like
don't?
Oh. No, those are just happening all the time.
They are?
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm thinking of something else.
You have priority needs. Like you have the top 3 priorities, and then you have like your ones you do naturally, and then ones that are neglected. But
and
that's
those can change.
Yeah,
and
those can change. So can these too. But
All
I'm
right,
really surprised. I'm the only one. I feel like I'm stuck in disgust the most. That's where I get.
I pegged that one for you.
Well, because I'm very vocal about it. Because when I feel like my response to chaos is disgust. Like I just get so angry at people. I get so disgusted with people. My paranoia, which, if we think about that as just not. I'm thinking of paranoia in my case as because it says losing touch with reality. It's for people like us who are not like particularly delusional. It's a part of us that just blanket the world sucks kind of thing. That's like a real lack of touch with reality, I think. I think it's just as much as a lack of touch with reality to say the world sucks as it is to say everything's fine. Like those extremes are just really out of touch. And it's really hard for me to not think the world sucks and people suck. And it's such a blanket statement about humanity and people. That's one of the reasons why I've decided to focus so much on remembering what's good, remembering who's helping, paying attention to the fact that most people care, most people, or they're just trying to live their lives. So I think that's how paranoia plays in when it comes to being out of touch with reality in my disgust, is because I'll just chalk it up to being disgusted with everything, like I'm done. When I could bring more, well, I guess we could segue into the next question, which is how do we tend to navigate or transform our degree of chaos into creativity or beauty? Well, while you guys think about that, let's see if there's any comments from the viewers that we want to put on for responses to the question.
Sure. Diane said that she also resonates with frustration and panic.
Okay.
I think I was talking about those initially, but it seems like a lot of people identify with those. Christian was kind of liking it to video games.
Oh.
Christian said, I noticed this online video games. There are times when playing with a group where it seems everyone just gets out of sync with what is happening, and the match falls apart sometimes in seconds.
Been there.
Interesting.
I think that happens in real life too. Chaos is a ladder. Of course, Karen would come in with the Game of Thrones quotes, right? Chaos is a ladder. How like funny. Maureen says, I get frustrated and desperate, and then my persistence, the true personality, kicks in. Then I slow down and try to see what's going on so I can recognize the patterns. I highly dislike discomfort.
Oh, this will be helpful for the next question.
Yeah. And then Connie says, I think I'm mostly in 3 and 4, disgust and frustration, spiking sometimes to desperation and then occasionally panic.
I like hearing the same with me.
Karen, same with me. I am mainly in disgust and frustration. Connie then says, most people are good, but I do have to remind myself of that fairly frequently.
It takes effort now to do that.
I also, Karen works for an artisan boss who feeds on chaos. If things get calm, she will create a shit show. She must thrive. Your boss must live in the negative pole as an artisan, Karen. Yeah. Delusion.
Oh,
so that catches us up.
All right. So how do we navigate or transform our degree of chaos into creativity or beauty? And when I was talking about disgust, for me, my way of getting out of that or like shifting it is to refocus my attention on the patterns that are beautiful, like people taking care of each other and like spending time with each other in ways that that matter to each other, that are meaningful. And so that's one of the things I decided for 2022 is like, I'm not going to let 2022 define me this year like the last 2 years did. It felt like the last 2 years were all about me reacting to everything. And this year I was like, you know what, I'm just going to be proactive, and I'm going to create events. I'm going to create, socially connection, and just nurture the things that I think are beautiful in the world, and hopefully make a difference for other people. And so when I pay attention to that, like the people that are actually doing the hard work of making the world a better place, it really helps me to soften that disgust and bring down the degrees. Anybody?
For me, and Troy, I assume you'll totally agree. For me, most of the time I have to sit in my chaos for a while. I have to live there, because I think at first I do try to reject it, or maybe I'm living in delusion in the negative pole of artisan, and I just need to give myself the permission to be overwhelmed by it. Because at first, when I met with chaos in all its forms, whether it's like a disorganized apartment, or like not being able to process the chaos of the world around me, at first I probably try to like resist it, and then I have to, over time, allow it to set in and absorb it and embrace it. And then eventually I start, chaos is the inability to recognize patterns, or not having seen the patterns yet that are already there. You just don't see them. For me, when I slowly start to accept it and acknowledge it and let it sort of overwhelm me, I then start to dissect it, and I can figure out the patterns, and I can figure out how it makes sense to me. I can figure out what my connection is to it. And only then do I start to am I able to maybe reorganize it or redefine it in a way that becomes meaningful for me, or in a way that allows me to find the beauty in it. And when I was thinking through that as an answer, it made me realize, you've said, and Michael have said, how the negative pole doesn't really acknowledge or have space for the positive pole, but the positive pole does have space or acknowledge the negative pole. And I think for me, it's sort of that process. I might start at the negative pole, but then I slowly find my way out of it. But it's almost like the negative pole acts in many ways as my inspiration towards beauty. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes my best creative work is born out of pain and suffering. So I feel like that's how I just need to sit with it long enough for me to start to pick it apart and understand the inherent patterns. And then that's how I bring myself out of it.
So you could apply that to things like, I leave my clothes on the floor, and that's like chaos to you, but you can recognize the beauty in that. Possibly,
it's significant chaos.
You can probably recognize the beauty in that if you unpack it and see like.
All right, moving on.
Oh.
Well, I am similar to Troy in that regard of seeing the beauty. I think that's really helpful. I actually have. This was actually inspired by Ro, so it's fun that you're here. Remember when we did the thing with the colors and in that Diane thing? Well, I took a little card and wrote "See the Beauty" on it, and I used all these little colored pencils, and I made it really pretty, and I stuck it on my bathroom mirror. Aww. So when every day, like multiple times, obviously, since I drink a huge amount of water, I see that. I see that every morning when I get up. I see that all the time. And even if I can't read it and it's in the dark, there's that little spot on my mirror that like it connects to my brain and it reminds me. So I try to find all these little things that even if all this chaos or things that are uncomfortable, even like at my job where it is literally chaos all the time, I find my little pieces that I focus on and kind of try to nurture into something that help me feel comfortable and help me manage it. And also I think to me, structure, because I have a very high creative energy, it's balanced out by focus, by structure. Mm-hmm. So I think those two things together help, having an organized space, having things where they should be, and being able to pick out those little moments to recognize and kind of elevate and make bigger to, help the ugly parts.
That's a really good point, or a really good thing that you brought up, because sometimes people think little things like the thing you put on your mirror doesn't matter, but if it puts you in a space that's brings you into the world in a way that's more like beautiful or more creative, that helps. Like, it helps way more than you realize, because there's a big difference between going to work or being around people and being angry and bitter versus like being at least at peace with yourself. That does make a difference.
Yeah, so besides seeing the beauty, you have to be the beauty.
Be the beauty. Who's next? Christina.
Yeah. Well, since it's we're also talking about creativity, because I think I agree with what all of you said, that of course we want to see the beauty in the world, but when we're talking creatively, and for me as an artist, then I'm really bored by beauty in art. Really, as in really. And I really am. And I also hope that reflects in the artwork that I chose for later. But we'll talk about that later. But I thought about that, like Bobby also said, that many things can be born from creative things can be born from pain and discomfort in various degrees. So I don't think that it was until I had a session with Michael, Troy, of course, when Michael told me that I had a muse who was there to help me transmute dark emotions. I was like, my dark emotions? What's wrong with them? Where do they have to go? I was like, really thinking about it. I always thought of it as kind of like a fuel to keep creating something that wasn't only pretty. It can be pretty, it's no problem, but it shouldn't have to be, I think.
I 100% agree. I don't know what everybody else is thinking about is beauty, because it's not always pretty. I find so many things beautiful that are not pretty or not obvious. That's like the piece of art you chose for today. I immediately thought how beautiful that was. Yeah, I totally get you about what's beautiful. Yeah, let's make that very clear, that beauty is not something that's always pretty. So it doesn't, sometimes what we think is chaos is a form of beauty in itself, but we just got to look for the patterns, and that's what makes it beautiful. In Michael's terminology, it's not so that it's pretty, it's that we can see the patterns. So like when you look at the piece of art we'll show later, there's patterns there for you that are recognizable. They make sense to you. They like, it's beautiful to you in some way, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. I look forward to hearing more about it. What you thought.
Connor?
Oh, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'll just take a walk.
That's good. You get the energy moving.
Yep. Go outside if it's raining or thundering. Definitely go outside.
I have to bring the physical
or make something.
Do you have moving center in your?
That's my neglected center.
Oh, that's why. Yeah, bringing that in can help. For those of us who don't have that moving
deadlock.
Yeah.
Yeah,
when we
something
neglect
is fun too.
Sorry, Connor. I keep talking over you.
I don't use physical materials so much as virtual building materials, like Minecraft style construction. And
that's
being able to put something together, you put patterns into place, or even my 2 stuffed animals, which you can't see. They're in my bedroom right now. I have a stuffed pterodactyl, a pteranodon. The pteranodon has the crest. The pterodactyl does not. And a puffin. And there are 3 cats who live in this apartment. So these 2 stuffed animals, I have them standing next to each other all the time. But whenever I come into the bedroom, they're on the floor. Because cats are skittering around and they always knock the stuffed animals over. So whenever I see them on the floor, you just pick them back up, put them right back next to each other, and that little piece of the world is set back into order.
I totally
for the next 5 minutes.
I love that. Do we have any comments from
Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff. Going back a little ways, Maureen was saying, yes, Troy, accessing the bigger picture a broader perspective shifts us to include more.
Yeah.
And then Carrie, hi Carrie.
Hi Carrie.
Carrie chimed in, finding joy and beauty is fine, but I guess it has to live side by side with stuff you can't change, and that change that frustrates you.
That's absolutely true. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the whole point. Like life, and I think it's like at the core of the Michael teachings that life can't be one thing. It has to be everything. And sometimes it leans in one direction more than the other, but it's always changing and it's never one thing. So when we try to only be happy, it's not going to work. And if we only think we're sad or only think things suck, we're going to miss out on a lot. So having the ability to at least let some room in there for the good while we're frustrated, while we're fighting for equality and change and peace, and let yourself have something, that's really important.
Yeah.
Maureen says, this is a great year for exploring this with the goal of acceptance.
Yeah, we're going to be covering is acceptance the goal this year?
Yes.
If so, we're going to be, whatever the goal is, we're covering that in the future episodes.
Kristen says, I kind of use a technique modified from helping people with panic attacks. I focus on my body and ground myself with the senses. If that doesn't work,
take a walk.
Being a warrior, movement helps.
Yes, absolutely. Wow.
Maureen, I think this is what I was saying, but I think Maureen says it a lot better than how I tried to say it. Seeing the negative pole as being a contracted, more dense state that can be unpacked to expand to include more is perfect.
Yeah.
There is nothing wrong with being in a contracted state. It's okay.
Right.
Preach, Maureen.
And then Connor, Christian's agreeing with you. I love being out in storms.
Yeah.
Connie says thunder and lightning are exciting.
Sunny days are boring.
Yaroon, I love walking in the rain and the thunder. That helps me to snap out of feeling overwhelmed or exhaustion or intellectual and emotional loops.
Oh, that's nice.
Expectation can be an inhibitor to beauty.
Scripting. She referenced scripting there, which is a Michael term for having in your head an idea of how things should go, and then when it doesn't match that, you just have a reaction to that instead of being able to like adjust to it or let it happen on its own. What was I going to say? Oh, so back to what Christina was saying about what's beautiful. That's always been something I've been fascinated by with people who say like they don't listen to like the Smiths or Morrissey because he's so sad. And I'm like, that sadness is so beautiful to me. Like hearing that sadness put into art actually makes me feel happier. Like it makes me to give form to something that's not easy to share, like your pain and like your sadness, and to give form to that in a way that you can package it and let someone else, experiencing it in their own way is so beautiful, whether it's music or visuals or whatever. So it's never about it being pretty.
Yeah, and just to be clear, because I said see the beauty doesn't mean it's just like flowers and puppies and stuff. I mean, I put it there because I wasn't seeing it, because I was feeling of the way Troy was, where everything is just like, oh my God, everything sucks. It's so horrible all the time. I just didn't feel like myself in that space because that's not who I am. And I like to be able to like ride the waves of life and not just be drowned by it.
Cypress, you have a print behind you of a heart cutout of a woman who looks dead on the ground, and it looks like oil is shooting up through that opening in her chest. So
that is true.
We know you're not all dainty, frilly lace and pretty rainbows. Okay,
well, I'm just making sure.
Yeah, I love that kind of art. So, speaking of, what is your favorite form of creativity in general? Like, how do you, when you consciously feel like you're doing something creative? I mean, for the artist, that may be more obvious, but for non-artists, there's also creativity. Obviously, we don't have to be an artist or an artisan to be creative. Creativity is a part of our daily existence in some way. So, how do we implement creativity? Like, how are we creative in a world that's full of chaos? Like, what's our little way of doing that? Bringing, and by creativity, I guess means bring something new, bring something, creating beauty, creating some sort of patterns that are recognizable and new and are resonant.
Go ahead, Cypress.
Yeah, I was excited to go.
Oh.
Sorry. Because when I was thinking about the questions this morning, this one kind of really was a little stickler to me because I'm not super artistic in a lot of way. I'm really not good at any kind of thing like that. And I mean, just to be fair, I can't do crafty things. I can't draw. I can't sing. I'm just not creative in that.
Ro would disagree with you.
Thank you. But I'm not really good at those type of things. But I realized the one thing, and it makes me feel so amazing, is when you can put together words in, even if it's just a sentence or a phrase that snaps someone's thinking in a different way, because you created a new process for them to a new perspective. It doesn't I mean, obviously I have tons of people in my life that are not Michael students. I mean, I am lucky enough to have close people in my life that are, but so it's not about, using terminology I can always use. Sometimes I have to be creative and find a way to say that type of thing, to say a Michael concept that I think really would help this person in a way that they can hear it, understand it, and apply it. And when that happens, I feel like it is an explosion of fireworks inside my head. Like, oh my God, that was it. Because you can see it on their face. They got something new that they didn't get before. So to me, that's beautiful. Pinnacle.
That's so sagey of you.
It's very sagey. I love the
sage. Hello.
Yeah.
But it's because it's because a lot of times people, when they hear that, when it snaps into form like that, when you've given them like the right words, it's like they've always known it. Now they have words for it. Like now it has a form. Now it has a beauty.
Yeah, that's a huge gift. So thank you, Cypress.
Oh yeah, thank you.
I'll say for me, I think Cypress was talking about structure earlier, and I think just on a very basic level for me, how do I what form does my creativity take? I love to create more structure around me because it pacifies me. I feel like I'm more able to take on the world the more structure I have in my life. Then, as far as artistically though, for me it's definitely music, which is no surprise. Like for me to give form to beauty or to express any kind of emotional experience, mostly the dark ones, mostly pain or suffering or anguish. For me, the best way to make sense of all of that is to manifest it through music, through singing or creating music. Because I 100% agree with you, Troy, with the notion of like the music or the art that speaks to me the most is usually the kind that taps it, that resonates with me on a level that's more about maybe sadness or despair or suffering. Because for me, my way out of those darker emotions is knowing that other people feel that way too, is knowing that I'm not alone in experiencing that. And when people express that through music, you were talking about the Smiths and Morrissey, like for me, it's like any song on Disintegration by The Cure, but Pictures of You for me is like one of the most beautiful songs, and it's also one of the most sad, painful songs. But it's that sadness that resonates. How many times are we watching shows now where we love the show so much and we're crying, but there are tears of pain and sorrow, right? But we love that, right? It gives us this, I don't know, sense of connection to the greater world. And so for me, I definitely respond mostly through music.
I love how every instance of description just goes back to that core of recognizing a pattern. Like we're a part of this together. That's what that's what makes that beautiful. What does the artist do that's creative?
This artist? Okay, this one, yeah.
What's your form of creativity in general?
Well, obviously, as most of you might know, I like to draw a lot, but I also want to say, Cypress, that of course I'm also a teacher, and I teach people how to draw. And when I tell people that actually being able to copy a photo perfectly is not creativity, it's the opposite. But whereas there are so many other things that are creative, you have no space for being creative as you are copying a reference to your paper. There is not, if it has to have likeness, which is what most people want when they start to draw. So I see creativity in so many other things, but not that. So
I love
see creativity
that.
in your expression, Cypress. And
yeah, I'd be more splashing. I'd be more just splashing colors around and making a big mess and going, I'm good with that.
You kind of should, though, while you're talking to people, maybe.
Spritzing glitter at them.
Yes.
Christina, we do not need her carrying around squirt bottles of finger paint while she's hanging out with us. No, that's a great idea.
Yeah, but so that was just a thing. That's how I see creativity. And Michael actually helped me define what kind of creativity I like. I like what you also said, Troy. I think we're very similar in this respect, because I also like things that make me ponder.
Yes.
Many overleaves in research, Michael said, makes me want to create something that isn't just pretty anymore, because I was there, of course, at some point. We all wanted to see something beautiful, and there are so many interesting questions in it, because it's also a matter of, for example, if you see something that's really meaningful to you, or you hear a song that's really meaningful to you, but it's sad, do you want to hang it on your wall, or do you want to hear it all the time? I want to ask you that, Troy and Bobby.
Oh, that's a good. No, I like to hear. There's something intimate about it, and I can listen to it or look at it, but it's. I don't. I'm not sure if I'm understanding your question entirely, but I do want to, but there's something more intimate about it than just something pretty, like. So there's something more. I don't know. I have more reverence, more. I don't know. I hate this word, but more sacred about it. If it's that intimate with me.
I don't know if this answers your question, Christina, but sometimes if I'm in a certain mood or I want to feel a certain way, there are certain go-to songs or music that I will put on because it transports me there right away.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Well, that's exactly what I thought that you might have meant. Yeah. Exactly. Because I also do feel the people who are like, this song is sad, because I also couldn't hear my favorite album, for example, all day long, because it would drag me down, because it is sad and intense and stuff. So it's not the kind of thing that I would put on all the time. It's just for special moments, like Bobby said. Like, if you want to go into a certain mood, it's there. But it's not for the everyday, just listening.
I feel like it's because those are experiential. Like, I'm having an experience when I have that kind of exchange with that kind of art. It's not just something to look at or something to listen to. I have that. Like, I can listen to some of my bands all day long, but then there's the ones that are experiential that like move me, and then those are like, those are special.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to say about it, if I can, is that I don't think that the meaning that I'm looking for when I look at a piece of art, that it can be pre-planned, because after Michael told me that I would have to create something that induced pondering in other people, it was like, oh, geez, how do I make them ponder, you know? But then I realized, you don't. Except if you sit down and you think, okay, I'm gonna make them ponder, then they're not gonna ponder, are they? You know, it can't be. It has to have a meaning, the art that I look at, and the art that I like, but it's not something that could have been pre-planned, I think, by the artist. That's all.
That's a great way to put it.
It was? Yay!
Yeah.
It felt a little. I'm glad.
Who hasn't? Who else? Who else? Now, Ro, you're against creativity, is that right?
Yes, of course.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, wow. In my life, creativity is a huge topic. It's so important for me. My artist and casting is on asteroids. I can tell that, trying to create or bring some kind of change, positive change, and being a priest, it comes in the way of creating moments of recognition or helping others manifest their essence. That's like good for me, when I can see the core of a person and help them see that too, feel reflected in that, and manifest their beauty and their power and all which are so necessary and powerful. And I was thinking on how this simple action tells you everything about life, the expansion and the contraction, the positive, the negative, both are needed to live, actually. So I was thinking of that. And other ways I like to be creative is, I remember talked about All Soul reality TV. I think there is a glimpse in live streams, for example, in just being with people together and having that presence with others and doing your little activities, your mundane, just living. And I feel like that is a very wonderful way of being creative. And conversations, for example, that's something I like to do, especially if they are topics like, spirituality, Michael teaching, fun, and intuitive art, of course. I love intuitive art. What's my philosophy with that? It's just about, being there in the moment and experimenting, being curious, not pre-planning, as Christina said, not pre-planning the product or whatever, just enjoying the process. And because, you can break the rules, you can create your own rules and see what happens. And yeah, it's great.
Yeah, you two host a show on, is it Instagram, or did you move to YouTube? The two of you, Ro and Christina.
Ro,
that was we did the live streams on Instagram.
To encourage creativity. And yes, I've missed them, but I love that you have those. And so I want to make sure I get everybody who's watching and watching now or later, there'll be links to everybody's stuff.
Yes, actually, we uploaded those Insta lives to my YouTube channel, so we can leave the links below.
Oh, okay, good. All right.
There's not going to be any excuse.
Right, no excuses.
Well, I write, which is no surprise. And when I'm hungry, I bake. Delicious cookies.
And cornbread.
And it's creativity. Again, it's
in
giving
more than
form.
one way.
Yeah. And
we talked about that too, Ro, right? We love baking.
And other
too.
times just
we love baking. Yes.
I'll comment on my own day.
Yeah.
There's always no one has a voice in their head. Everyone has a chorus of voices.
Right.
And they're speaking to each other. If you're healthy, they're all talking to each other. And sometimes you can let the dialogue come up to the surface. And I get some good content sometimes, which would probably work well in a stand-up routine, but I haven't been writing it down.
Connor the comic.
No, well, my friend said just the other day I was getting drunk and baking, and I was talking to her about my grandparents, and I told her that at least my grandparents had the good grace to croak before the 2016 election, so that way I can still love them.
And that was good.
That was really funny.
That really is.
I need a one of those recording devices.
That's dark, and I love that. I love dark humor like that. Oh my god!
Yeah.
Any comments from
and little pieces of music?
Oh, yes.
There's some comments. So Maureen was talking about problem solving as a way, I think, to climb out of chaos towards beauty or creating structure.
Or their favorite form of creativity.
Favorite form of creativity, yeah. Connie likes to write, like Connor, or to garden, or crochet.
Oh,
I miss gardening.
Maureen is helping to inflate Cypress's head.
Thank you, Maureen.
Connie says, I love that, Cypress. It's so wonderful that you are able to express the teachings in a way non-students can understand. I love that, Cypress. I was explaining the instinctive center to someone the other day and used the disc on programs in the Tron universe, and the person got it. That's awesome.
That is.
So Karen apparently has a drill sergeant in her head.
Oh my Lord.
And so far there's only one, and it's just, I guess, a loud drill sergeant.
Wow.
Diane thinks it's funny. Yogesh says, for me, chaos leads to creativity. When I don't know what to do, I need to be creative to come out of it. And for me, this is through taking a step back and observing chaos by stillness.
Oh, I love that, because this goes back to the more condensed versus expanded, because these are not things that we want to avoid. Chaos is a part of life. Beauty is a part of life. So, but we want to be able to make a choice. And that's part of the core of the Michael teachings, is learning how to choose and choosing how to learn. So if we can use chaos to move ourselves into creativity, excellent.
Maureen says, I do this is from my life task. Curiosity tempered by a soft compassion for those people and things in life that I observe and seek to understand. Flexible resource of insight and feedback for myself and others in helping to comprehend the bigger picture, so that one does not get snagged in or consumed by the details.
So levity, kind of.
Yes.
Yeah, because sometimes we can get weighed down by all those details, when we can just step back and look at the bigger picture to see the beauty, or at least find some piece of it. So going on to the next question, do you feel that this is kind of tied in with what Yogesh said, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Do you feel that chaos is something to avoid or to control? I bet everybody's going to have a real strong opinion about that.
I felt neither. Because again, I mean, I think I said
not one or the other, but as avoid or control versus something else.
Oh yeah, I definitely don't think it should be avoided or controlled personally. I think in the beginning, though, I do try to avoid it as just like a defense mechanism. But for me, I think chaos, I need to become comfortable with it so I can embrace it and let it in. And only then do I start to see the patterns in it and start to understand how I can connect to it. So for me, it's about embracing it, not avoiding it or trying to control it.
Okay.
And also understanding it, because that's when you I really loved how you said it, Bobby, because when you do have that chaos and you bring it in and then you see the beauty, that comes from the understanding. It comes from that it's like it's like soft, what's the word I'm looking for? Compassion for it. And that helps, I think, for you to be able to more manage it as a part of what you're dealing with.
Well, it also kind of turns it inside out. Like when you relax into it and recognize the patterns in it that you can find and work with those, it sort of undoes itself, helps to undo itself.
You know, Cypress, I think you hit it on the head when you were talking about compassion, because I think for me, it's like, why be afraid of the chaos or avoid it? Like for me, it's about gaining empathy, right? It's like learning to relate to it and to accept it and to acknowledge it. Not that it's like a life form, but I feel like there are those people who live on the outside, and there are those of us who are willing to try to find our way into it, right? And I think only through doing that can you like take a fearful situation or a confusing moment and turn it on its head, right?
Who else? Ro, do you think it's something to control or avoid?
I definitely prefer to just let it be for as long as I need to be, in my life, and then find my way through it somehow, being the change I want to see in the world. That helps me alleviate anxiety around doing something about it. It's my way to, and turn it into something different, into something beautiful. And I agree with, you need to understand it somehow. You need to see, you need to be open to see what can be beautiful. And yeah, more often than not, when we relax and just they are going to get better somehow. It's like the Tao and the order of the universe it gets to improve. We are constantly improving actually. So I trust in that, and yeah, I let chaos be.
Connor?
I don't bother. Avoid or control.
Yeah.
I have the high ground. It's not gonna work out too well, but it happens no matter what, and there's a difference between letting it run its course versus leaving yourself in it.
That's a good point.
You don't want to leave yourself in it.
Oh, that's great.
Forever, but if you let it follow its natural course, eventually you'll find your way on the other side.
What do you think, Christina?
What they'll say.
I think again, Bobby was really talking about some things that resonate with me, and it also reminded me of a quote that Michael gave at one point about being an artisan. They said, "Freedom is upheld by structure and discipline." And when I wrote that as my favorite quote in the favorite quote section, I remember Nico, if that's correctly pronounced, just writing me like, "I know that you're an artisan just based on that quote." So yeah, but you mentioned that earlier, Bobby, but also because of my introduction, I'm allowed to be a contradiction, right? Because Michael said that I am. Thank you. Okay, so but I both really like chaos, but I also really relate to that quote and need to feel safe, like you also said, that there is a structure around me, and if that structure is there, then I think I dare to dive into
that's a good
chaos.
point.
Yeah, but it scares me. I have to be honest. It scares me if there is no structure around me, because I went through that as a teenager and came to the point where I couldn't create anything because nothing made sense at all, and I hated being there. So I have to admit, I'm afraid of that place.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, that's kind of what Connor was saying. There's the difference between letting it run its course and doing what you can along the way, and being stuck there and leaving yourself there.
Exactly. But being stuck there, you will burn up.
Now I'm gonna sort of flip everything on its head for a second, because we just described our relationship to chaos as something that we want to understand, embrace, maybe even use as fuel for change. But then we also have to apply that on the large scale too. When we look at the world and the chaos in the world, it's really hard to say the same thing when things are happening on that scale and people are being hurt. It's how do we apply that? Because one of the tests I have for any Michael information is, if it can be applied on this scale, it should be able to be applied on this scale. Or if it can be applied in this instance, can it be applied in this instance? And so I like to always ask myself if, in my personal life, chaos is a part of the creativity. It's part of the beauty of my life. I actually don't resent it. And I like doing the balancing act between chaos and beauty and all that stuff. But wouldn't that apply to how we create collectively too? Like, we're creating this chaos that's painful and hurting. And doesn't mean we have to step back and be like, well, let it run its course. We still have to intervene and do what we can to create the structure and the way out. But it's okay for us to let that be part of the process. That's just part of our growing pains. And I think that's one of the ways we can keep it from being so overwhelming to us, is by letting it be a step, not the conclusion. I think we get lost when we think that's all there is. So I'm just trying to take how we're applying it on a personal level. It's got to be true on a higher level too.
Well, and I think Karen just said something similar to what you're saying, Troy. I also think that it depends on the type of chaos. There is creative chaos and there is destructive chaos. But I also think we also need to acknowledge that we don't necessarily take we're not supposed to take responsibility for the chaos that's out there, right? So like we can acknowledge that there's some bad stuff, there's chaos out there, and we may or may not be able to influence it at all. But to your point, I think we need to acknowledge that hopefully it's not going to live and reign forever, and that eventually there's going to be another side to the chaos, and maybe we can be a part of that in some way to bring us collectively out of that. But I don't know. I mean, and I'm not saying you were implying this, but like at the same time, we don't want to feel ashamed or feel guilty when there is chaos out there that we can't really impact in any direct way, or we can't make pretty. We can't make certain chaoses pretty, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I just don't want us feeling paralyzed by it, like overwhelmed, and having our own resource of creativity and beauty and to bring to the world shut down because of did we lose Christina?
Hopefully she'll come right back.
I don't think it's a good idea to let that chaos that's happening in the world cut short your own creativity and beauty that you can bring to the world. That's all I meant by it. We can't control it on that scale, but we can still contribute. And we don't have to let that larger scale chaos be a reason to shut down. Christina said something that made me think of I don't want to go into this too much today because we're running out of time, but I did get some insight into the 7 levels of beauty, and the highest level of beauty was called transcendent beauty. And that's beauty that can be sensed, intuited, known, but not understood or comprehended. And I think that's one of the places we have to accept, like nurture in seeing the world and humanity, is from that transcendent beauty where we don't know where this is headed. We don't know what we're doing. We don't know why things that are happening on the scale that they're happening, but we have to let ourselves see the beauty of the whole thing. Like we do keep evolving. We do keep moving towards more inclusivity and freedom and equality. We do, and it's too slow, and we'll work on that. But letting that transcendent beauty be a part of our perspective, that we don't have to understand it, we just have to know that it's there. Like that's the highest level of beauty, is where it's not always able to be seen or obvious, right? But I think that was important to point out. Well, hopefully we get Christina back. But any comments before we move to the next thing?
Just a couple. Maureen was saying, I like how Bobby had said it, live in it. Diane says she definitely does avoid and control chaos. So I thought that was interesting. Then Maureen says, there are gems to be found in chaos. It can be experienced as a treasure hunt.
That's nice.
Connie says, I like to avoid and or control chaos, but I have this inner child who won't clean her room.
Oh, that's nice.
Yogesh, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, says, I align with what Bobby spoke of about embracing chaos. Karen talks about the creative chaos and the destructive chaos. Maureen says, we are meant to walk through the valley of the shadow of death, not pitch a tent and stay there forever.
Good.
And then Christian says, would you say creative chaos is taking the chaos and forming it into something more?
Well, I'm thinking if we go back to the degrees of chaos with what Karen said, I don't know if it's that there's creative chaos and destructive chaos. There is that. But I think the higher the degree of chaos is, the more destructive it becomes. So like, for instance, right now, what's happening in Ukraine is based on someone's panic and terror, because the world's changing and they don't want it and they got to have their control back. And so he's launching this war on a country as a tantrum, basically. And that is extremely destructive chaos. You're right. But I think it's because of the degree of chaos that it makes it destructive. So I think there's a correlation. Like the first degree is like, you can still be creative, but the last or the seventh degree is where you lose the ability to be creative with it. Bobby's busy. Maureen says, would you say we reach that seventh level with that level 7 with the higher centers? Are you talking about the beauty?
The transcendent level beauty.
There we go. We got her back.
Yay!
Welcome back.
Hello.
Oh, special guest star. Back there.
The special guest star is trying to catch the dogs who thought I was done. They were like, "Yay, she's ready!" Like, no.
I think the higher centers play in, yeah. But so before we go, I want to wrap this up with something fun that was posed to the panel, and that was and those of you watching can do this too, and share it on. We'll create a thread on TLE. But we posed the question: if your life were a piece of art, what would it look like? And once we started trying to answer that question, we realized there's no piece of art that can represent our life, but it can give us a glimpse. And it's kind of fun to be able to share that in an image. So we're going to share and hear how these pieces of art represent our life. Let me get it up here. So here's the first one. I wonder if anybody... So this is my life. And I'll explain. Because I feel like this represents my life because it's at once adorable and horrific. There's something disturbing about it, but familiar. There's something there's a lot of cuddliness and approachability, but also pointiness and like, what the hell is happening here?
7th degree terror.
It's a part of nature. It's completely in its element, but also where the hell is this and what is happening? I feel like this really represents my life because that's the way I feel like I exist in this weird space between like being adorable and being horrible. And this is a piece of art by Mark Ryden, the artist. What corner of Uncanny Valley did you find that in? I love this creature so much, but I would probably run from it if it came at me in the woods. I don't know. But it's so beautiful to me. I love things that are difficult to love. And this would be one where you're like, I want to love it, but what? I better be a little bit careful. So that's why I picked it.
I want to love it, but does it bite?
Right.
In a weird way, that's you, Troy.
I know, right?
I love those contradictions too. I love that.
I do too. All right. So the next piece of art is, who's this, Ro?
Oh, that's mine. Yeah.
You tell your story.
I was wondering, which one to pick and I decided to go with the first one that came to mind. This is from Hilma Klint. She inspires me a lot. Her painting is very mystic, very inspired and colorful. And I love colors so much. They just bring so much joy to my life. And right now, I think this painting is how I feel these days. It's, an invitation to play, to be colorful, there are some nature forms like flowers, maybe, and the spirals. I love the spiral symbols. They are like, how life is, the different circles going deeper and deeper, also like healing this path to the self, to essence. And she has of paintings. I think this is called Childhood. And again, play. They are so paramount to my life. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ro, so is she a relative of Gustav Klimt?
I don't know.
Is her last name Klimt, did you say?
Klimt.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you said Klimt. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. Who's next?
Oh, that's me.
Oh, pretty.
This is my favorite artist, Camilla. Oh, I love her so much. I have so many of her things, and so do Troy and Bobby. I have never seen it before today either. I was looking through her thing or her art online to pick some in case there was one that was better than the ones I have in my apartment, and this definitely won for a couple of reasons. One, I love the water air aspect of it. There's a calm nature feeling to it, but also I have my whole life, I've always been very comfortable with who I am in my body, and which is usually not common for people. Most people don't really like things about themselves, but I do. So there's like a prettiness to the front of it because that's how I feel and I'm comfortable with it. And then I love the fact that there's this entire world, this ocean behind her. And I think of that as all the other me's that make up who I am. So not just all the other parallel lives that are happening now or concurrent, but all the me's through all of time, through not just this cycle, but all the past cycles, like everything that connects who I am. There's that one little face that showed the world right now, and that's that one. But there's all that behind me and in me and part of me.
That's lovely.
It's beautiful. We're all in aquarium.
Uh-oh. Who's this? Whose beauty is this?
That's mine.
Yay.
Yeah, and I chose it because it's also connected to music, since we talked about music as an art form earlier also. So it's also representative. It's from the cover inside, what's it called? The leaflet for Boys for Paley by Tori Amos.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. And it's a series of pictures that are all in this state, whatever you would like to call that. But the reason that I chose it, because I always loved it myself, and so I have like this big mood board in my living room where I put things up, and then I hope that they will just come together and inspire me. And when I hung this one lately on that mood board, people were starting to go like really, really hating it.
Oh.
And I was like, what? Yeah, exactly. I was like, are you kidding? I would ask people just for fun to hear lots of opinions, like which one here do you prefer and which one do you dislike the most? And this one is the winner for dislike. And I was like,
wow.
I don't understand.
It provokes so much feeling and thought.
Yeah, exactly. There's just so much going on in there. And yet it was like 3 times in a row, people were like, that's the worst. And I was like, how can they see it so differently? What is it that they see that I don't see? And then it just made it even more interesting than it already was. Because it was already like really like, okay, what's going on here? And it goes back to what we talked about earlier, that there has to be something to think about in an artwork. That. And yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts, Troy.
On this?
Yes, just a few thoughts.
Well, it's making me think about like there's like a combination of defeat and like a history of defeat and the willingness to overcome it.
Yeah.
Like she's not falling down, she's getting back up. That's what I see in this, and that's what I think is so amazing. And also like that there's like all this life happening around her that's just there because that's life, and it's completely her story, her incident or whatever happened in this little is happening there, invisible to the world around her. Like it's just a part of it, like it's not, but it's so personal to her. So I just love how that contrast between like life goes on, the cows are grazing, but something happened and it still matters. I love that.
Well put.
Yeah, I know there's no right or wrong, so that's my take.
No, that was amazing. Just great.
And what does it mean for you as a representative of your world? Just that representing that.
But I love those words so much. Okay, yes, but to me it's like it is chaos. I wrote that down that I would remember that. But to me also, like I said earlier, maybe that chaos is connected to who I am, in sense that it fuels creativity and it fuels consciousness. Michael said as well. So for me, I feel like I like this image because it represents what you said about living it, being in it, and still I still also look at this and think that it's beautiful.
Yeah,
I do.
I do too.
Yes, and I realize that it's not you're not gonna see it on a billboard somewhere, a perfume ad or anything. I realize it's
Christina, it just made me think about vegan activists that our fight can feel sometimes frustrating and hard, in the presence of so much disregard and from others, but still we have to keep going and moving forward and keep inviting people into this beautiful cause, for the betterment of the whole world and each other.
Oh, I love that, Ro. That's a great angle on this.
And also maybe be willing to let the world see that we are in the state.
Yes.
And that we go on. Yeah.
Who's this?
Let me guess.
No surprise. This is mine. This is a painting by Mark Rothko. He's a 20th century abstract expressionist painter, originally from Europe, but moved to the United States at an early age. On a purely technical level, I love the color blocking. This is very indicative of his art in general, this this color blocking, color relationships. But I pulled a quote from him that I thought was also very revealing. I mean, it kind of harkens back to something Christina said. And Mark Rothko said, "There is more power in telling little than in telling all." And I thought it kind of made sense with what Christina said about artists trying to pre-plan what the audience's reaction is going to be. Like, he's not trying to explain everything to you here, and I love that. And obviously that's the point of abstract art in general, but it can end up meaning whatever you want it to mean, even though he had some pretty specific ideas of what it would mean to him on an artistic and even a metaphysical level and a sensual level. One of the things that I did read about him and his art, when he does all of this color blocking, he does on a very basic level identify this as there being like a horizon line. So you're almost seeing different layers of the earth meeting the horizon line, meeting the sky, and the horizon itself is it's infinite, right? It's something that you can never reach. It's unattainable. And so there's this infinite, never-ending quality to the art itself, and I like that. Blue is also my favorite color, so this particular painting is very striking to me. And he tended to name all of his works untitled. It's like untitled number 59 or untitled number 60, because again, he didn't want to impose a specific interpretation or idea onto the art. He just wanted to let it speak for itself and let it resonate with the viewer however they wanted it to, however they wanted to interpret it. So.
Any comments here from people before we go to Connors?
Then it would have to be that I knew Mark Rothko in my previous life.
What? You did?
It's the only place I can mention stuff like this.
Oh.
Right?
Is that true? Is that something that was channeled for you?
Troy channeled it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
I know. And I think it's the one that I carried over into this life. I remember Michael talking about that I would resonate strongly with feelings about suicide and that kind of thing. And that was because of this. He did commit suicide, right?
Yes, he committed suicide,
yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Because I didn't know anything about him until Troy channeled this for me. And I was looking at the paintings and
Wow, that's so cool.
That's amazing. Wow, how funny.
It was the only place I could ever mention it. Okay, I had to.
I love that.
So
Yay.
going back, wait, that's Connor's. Hold on. Going back, it is interesting that Michael has said that mattresses are a symbol of support.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
It's also reflective of, or it's reflective of an internal process. I'm not sure if that was relative to that picture.
It is.
Or not.
Maureen brought it up during Christina's.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go, Connor. Bing!
Oh, yes. You probably could have guessed.
Oh my God. The
That was
animals
so
have
I was
risen.
I was a bad student, and I did not read the Discord. And so we had to choose these pictures, and I find out about that about 10 minutes before the episode begins.
And this is
So
what
in the
came
10
up
minutes
with.
I had to scroll through Google Images, I chose this one because, well, frankly, the past 12 months have, I think, been the worst year of my life.
Wow.
And this rabbit here, which you can see, is the world. It moves this way and that, usually quicker than I can keep track. And sometimes it tries to whack my head off with a really huge fucking sword, but it doesn't get all the way through. Yeah, it never gets all the way through.
Oh.
And
well,
yet even when situations like that are happening, it's still fucking funny because look at this picture. It's ridiculous.
It really is.
This is a serious picture from the Middle Ages. It was not made up for satire. People actually drew things like this centuries ago.
I would get this as a tattoo just because.
Some serious monk in a monastery made this one day.
Oh, wow.
He had
and
a
centuries
bad day.
later, it spoke to me.
I love it. That's amazing. That's really cool when you think about that.
It might have been you as a monk in a monastery.
Yeah.
Oh.
And you spoke to you.
Okay, looks like Maureen's got some contributions.
Whoa, Connor. Well, she does. So I don't know if you want to flip back to the Rothko.
Okay.
But Maureen says she did a little bit of research here. A Rothko quote: "I'm not interested in relationships of color or form or anything else. I'm interested only in expressing basic human emotions, tragedy, ecstasy, doom, and so on. And the fact that lots of people break down and cry when confronted with my picture shows that I communicate those basic human emotions.
Oh, I love that.
The people who weep before my pictures are having the same religious experience I had when I painted them. And if you, as you say, are moved only by their color relationships, then you miss the point." And then going back to Connor's killer rabbit, Carrie said, "Now I want to know which book Connor's art was in."
Yeah.
Well, now that I don't know.
Karen
I
says,
know there are quite a few other medieval rabbit pictures, killer rabbit pictures. There are a lot.
Wow, that's interesting. What were you saying about Welsh rarebit?
Karen saying, "What were you saying about Welsh rarebit?" And then Connie says, "That was painted by Anya from Buffy." Buffy.
That's funny.
And then Diane said, "You guys did a great job choosing artworks. They're all pretty profound."
That's really cool. Glad you all thought so.
Yeah.
Well, we should wrap up the show. It's been an hour and a half. I didn't even notice the time.
It was fun.
It was fun.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
but the best
you
part
all.
was Troy's artwork.
Wait, what?
Your artwork was the best part.
Oh.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Your weird llama rabbit dog.
The way you stared into your soul, right?
Right?
Those brown eyes. Yeah.
That's exactly right. The only thing missing was some pink hair on it.
I'm never going to forget that. Seriously. I know that I'm not.
So everybody, thank you for joining. Please, when we post a video or even for this one, like and subscribe because, we got to get everybody involved. And we'll be back next month. And I think we're going to cover acceptance then. I've completely lost track of where my script is. So let me
Just so you know, Troy, there's been some feedback from a couple people. They are intrigued by the 7 levels of beauty. A couple people have brought it up, so we may need to try to fit them in a future episode.
You never know. You never know. I'll dangle it like this.
It was a great idea to choose art that reflects each of you.
Yeah, I thought that was fun. It was more fun than I thought it was going to be more daunting once I started trying to do it. Then when everybody shared it, I was like, oh, that's good. I like that. I learned a little bit about it.
Karen says, thanks, and so nice to meet Christina. And it was.
Yes, special thank you to Christina. Thank you for taking time to be here with us.
Very nice to meet all of you.
Yes, I have never heard your voice before.
Yeah. So we'll have to have you on as an interview in one of the causal coffee, so we can really get into your work. And I'd really like to have that conversation with you.
Oh my God! Invite me.
Yes.
That would be awesome.
For today, thanks for being a part of the panel. Just one of the gang today, and everybody else. We'll see you later. Let me get my little close out here. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.